Yeah, ready?
Yeah. You betcha, it's part 23. Let's go do some exciting things. Yeah! What's this? Part 22, where did we leave off? Well, we left off doing that gearbox mounting thing, which thanks for all the comments on that, came in pretty good, doesn't it? Nice and, didn't it? Nice and vertical and holding it on there really good. So we left off with that. What we needed to do was the T-shift linkage. Now what I've used is the linkage bar from the Granada Dorchester. I don't know if that's different than a double overhead cam all the time, but this bar off the Dorchester was different than the double overhead cam Scorpio that's outside. Why they're different I'm not sure, but they were different. The Dorchester rod was the one to use. We'll be taking you underneath the car to have a look how brilliant that works. I'm really pleased with it. So taking you over across there now to the front of the car. We've been doing all that stuff there, and I've got good news. I've got real good news for you all. So I'm going to take you off the selfie stick. We're going to go handheld and we're going to go and look what we've been up to. Right, so I've been checking that the speedo cable would hook up nice to the gearbox, and it does. This came with the Granada Dorchester. Or did it? No, this is the double overhead cam Scorpio cable. Sorry, this is the Scorpio cable. Fits on the back of the instrument cluster, no problem. So that's one for you guys to note down. If you're doing this conversion on your Cortinas, that cable fits. There's our drive cog at the end. We think that it's going to work. If not, you unclip the end of that clip there and you can fit different drive gears. There's the mounts for the gearbox. There comes with a little bracket which just bolts nicely onto the gearbox. So because there's been some hot new developments for you, you're going to be eager to see what I've been up to. Leave me alone for 10 minutes and what happens? I end up with some crazy new idea. Well, there is some crazy new ideas, but to show you them, I'd like to first show you the lovely T-bar shifter assembly and how it works. I'm going to need an assistant to do that, so before I grab an assistant, we'll get on with the welding of the tunnel thing. Now that is in position correctly now. All we've got to do, we're happy with the T-shift linkage, it selects all the gears perfectly. In fact, I can show you what I've done with the T-shifter top end first before we go under the car and look at how I've done it down the bottom end. Here's the T-shifter, you saw it on the earlier video, but we left that earlier video not knowing how we're going to do the linkage. Well, that's welded on there, just wants cleaning up. The end you can see off there is off the Granada. So we've chopped the end off the Granada selector stick, then welded it onto the end of the Cortina one at that angle. Now if you look at that angle there, it's coming vertically back up with the original pivot point. Lengthwise there wasn't much in it, that's about the same length as the original shifter. Okay, I'm glad about that because I didn't want to have different lengths because it would affect the throw of this arm. The longer you make that arm, the more movement it's going to generate. We didn't want that to happen. Plus clearance wise, that just fits nicely in the tunnel. So question on T-bar shifter, can it be fitted quite easy with a selector rod? Yes it can, it's not a problem at all. That works. So we just need to file that weld down there now. Alright, we'll just clean that weld up. It has a little insert, a little plastic insert there. Make sure you take that out before you weld, otherwise it will melt. What I did to get it out is I just filed the face off it on one side and popped it out because it's held in anyway. They're quite difficult to push out otherwise. You could try softening them up with a hot air gun. I just filed that off that side, popped it out, and it sits back in. That's the bushing for the rod to fit in with a nice little circlip that clips on it. Here's the speedo cable coming inside the car. This one that's on it at the moment is a Sierra one. It's a bit too long. I'm hoping the Granada one is shorter. You can see that this accelerator cable's got a join of some kind in it, and it's quite long. Whilst it would work, you'd have to curl it a little bit, and that creates tension in the line, so it's best not to do it. What I need to do is get that welded on. That's a pretty straightforward job. We can either spot weld or we can plug weld. If the spot welder arms reach through with no big problems, I'll spot weld it on. First I'll clean up the inside face. Might just be able to do that with the gearbox still in position. So T-bar, shifter, bracket, transmission tunnel bracket, no problem. It sits there and that's done. We've put the console on and centered it up. We're happy with the central position on there. So gearbox, T-shifter, linkage, no problem. But remember, I don't know if I mentioned this on previous video, but the selection, gear selection on a Mk3 Granada is 1, 2, 3, drive, neutral, reverse and park. But on a Mk3 Cortina selector T-shift, there's your T-shift, it is 1, 2, drive, neutral, reverse, park. So you're missing the third gear selector. But what you've got to do is lose first gear, manual override. So when the gearbox selector's fitted, all the way back will be second, second will be third, and then it's into drive, neutral, reverse and park. So it's a compromise, I'm afraid, you're going to have to make if you want to use an original looking T-shifter, simply because the mechanism, let's have a look at that mechanism. Just the way the mechanism linkages work, it's designed for that type box, so you just lose that. Alright, I don't think it's a big deal. I don't often, on my green GXL, I don't often put it into first. I think it's if you're a really steep hill, if perhaps you're towing. So we're going to have to accept that we don't get first. You're going to get first, of course, when you start in drive, so it's still going to find the gear in drive. So most of our time is going to be spent in drive. Alright. So till my assistant arrives and I can show you how lovely the gearbox selector works, I'll now get on, clean the face of this bracket up, stick you on the tripod, and let's get some welds in. Right, let's get in and clean this up. Right, I've got that in position ready, just got one quick tack on it. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to tape up the hole on there. Okay, just because even though I filed back, there's still some fumes coming off the gravity. Remember, we Gravitex the underside, that'll have to just be cleaned up after we've done it. So I'm just going to tape these two holes up so the fumes don't come straight up at me. I'm going to get just a fly mask on now. So some horrible fumes coming off, so it's time to get our mask on. I need to get the small one so I can get it under the welder, but I'm going to try my big full cartridge mask first. If that doesn't fit, I'll have to get the fly mask, but bad fumes coming off there. Hold on. I can do it. Just about get in with this. Let's go, let's get it done. Well, there's only one real way to describe that. Ghastly. Them fumes are ghastly. I mean, I had the full face mask on there with the cartridge filters, and that saved me. Just taking the mask off now and feeling the air, it's mainly died down, but they are nasty, nasty fumes. You can feel, I mean, it's done it once on me, that's why I've got that mask. I'll never do it again. You get a headache from hell and you just know that you're doing something wrong to your body. Just don't even think about it. I just said it on just a few minutes ago, but just got the welder to work with the full face mask, but only just. You've got to look just the top part of your visor and sort of stick your eyes over the top, but it was worth it because the Gravitex and the paint that's underneath there kicks back some real bad fumes. That's why you're alright working on good clean metal. Don't even think about working on bad metal. Just clean it all off. Now, could I have cleaned all that off? Well, not without taking the gearbox off, and we're still doing R&D, so it's one of them unfortunate situations where I didn't think I'd be doing a gearbox conversion, of course, otherwise a long time ago this would have been sorted and there'd be no Gravitex on there. It would have held back till all this was welded on. But you can see, watching the episodes, this being part 22, that you can see how this has happened, that we just didn't know we were going to do it. So let's let the fumes die down and that cool off before we start grinding, and let me take you to something else now that you're going to enjoy. We're going to show you some boxes. Slowly pan round so we look in these boxes. Now look at these boxes, everybody. These are all the parts out of the Mk3 Granada. There's loads of electronic goodies in a Granada. Some things we don't know what they're for. This is to do with the ignition. I'm sure that's something to do with the ignition pack. But you'll see just in the middle of your screen now, everybody, what we got. What's this? You may ask. Why would we be interested in this? One wonders. Well, what I've got in my hand there is a vacuum pump. That is part of the cruise control. So I've said the words cruise control, and that you should pick up now exactly where I've been going, exactly where I'm headed. It's cruise control stations. We've managed to salvage. I'll take you over and show you the rest of the parts. Let's just go over to the other bucket, because there's other buckets of goodies from the Granada as well. All the switches, trims, clips, as much stuff as I could get out of that car. Nice multi-plugs which we can use on harnesses. Perhaps we could use these for the boot lights. There's some nice kit on a Granada. All sorts of stuff. Fuses, switches, relays. Some of these are timer relays, intermittent delay relays, interior light delay relays. Trip computer there, don't worry, that won't be going on, but I've saved it anyway. All the ECUs off the car, just in case anybody needs them. But back to the cruise control. In this box, let's reach in. That's the cruise control ECU, and I've worked out the wiring on it, so I know what each wire does. And then in here is the magic part, which is the vacuum operated bellows. These work in conjunction with the pump. And what happens is when it wants to do cruise control, the pump creates a vacuum which draws this in under atmospheric pressure. That goes in, that pulls the cable which connects to your throttle there. So that's how cruise works. Quite simple. You've also got some extra connections which go to your brake pedal. For safety, when you press the brake pedal, it'll dump the vacuum. The brake pedal switch has actually got a little valve in the micro switch of the brake pedal, and it kills the vacuum to this, which instantly cuts off your cruise control. That's a safety feature, so normally it wouldn't do that till you press your brake. So vacuum pump, diaphragm, ECU. We've already got the speed control fitted on the gearbox, so we can leave that on. The gearbox has got outputs for a mechanical drive, and it's got outputs for the VSS, the vehicle speed. So we leave the sender on, and that connects to one of these cables here off the gearbox, and that enables this to measure the speed. Then it can give outputs to the vacuum pump. You've got vacuum energize, vacuum dump, and then a ground, and that's all. It's quite simple. Looks bad, but actually most of those wires are switch inputs for your cruise control commands. The actual system itself is surprisingly simple. So cruise off a Mk3 Granada. I believe it's a standard Hella setup, so it's fitted on many other cars as well. But we've worked out a way of doing it without you seeing it in the engine bay to keep the car original, and to make this easily removable again. So we've got in the box here, grab in we go, let's get our pedal. We come out with our pedal, look at the pedal, that's the Cortina Mk3 although it's the same on the Mark 4 and 5. Accelerator pedal, not a lot of range of operation, but the leverage effect gives you more. What happens is that just pulls on your Weber carburetor or whatever carb you've got. That's it, standard. However, we can come up with a system by having a standoff bracket here, something like that. I've checked the clearance under the car, there's room by your feet, plenty of it. So we'd fit this on a bracket just there. That would then double up onto that and pull your pedal in. You then fit this just in the kick panel side of the driver's side of the car. We'll take these brackets off because that makes it a bit too proud, but I've worked out there's room by putting it on Swampy. There's plenty of space just under the right of your dashboard, above your mat pocket kick panel. You can go in there with that, so the cable would go along the bulkhead, loop round and connect to the accelerator pedal there with a simple bracket that we weld to this. Then we fit this just underneath that, so the system's 2-in-1 area, both items in that area, that vac pump straight to there. There's room to do it. Now, there's a disadvantage with fitting the motor inside the car, that is that you'll hear it running, but it only runs when it needs to alter the speed. Once it's created the vacuum, this switches off, so you're not going to hear it all the time. You can hear that noise just as it energizes itself. So I can live with that. We'll rubber mount it as well. I can live with that. So that's the cruise control proposal for you. I think it'll be a nice toy on our cruiser, especially with the automatic gearbox and the long distance travelling we've got in mind for the car. Okay, so a little diversion before I take you underneath and show you that gearbox linkage, which we're really happy about. Before we do that, I'm going to go back to those grinds now around the transmission tunnel, and I'm going to get those flatted off, ground down. Then I'm going to seam seal in the tunnel housing. Just one of those jobs that, in case I forget, it's done. Alright, so off we go to do that. Now the fumes are cleared, I'm going to come in now. I'm going to clean up these these plug welds that we've done. So we'll get those cleaned up. You see them there? It was a horrible job because also the paint was kicking back and the welder was fighting against it. They've all penetrated. It's not particularly structural as such, it is strong. Got to get that right anyway. So grind down, seam seal, and we're clearing that area. Then I'll put the gear selector linkage back on for you. Let's go with. Okay, inside the car with me, we got lights, so don't worry about that. We're going to show you what we're doing. In we go. So just cleaning up. Belt sander is great for these little jobs. The belt sander gets right in. Got to make sure you've got plenty of spare belts around because it chews through the belts. They can snap when they hit a bit of rough weld, so you need to have a good pack. I always have a pack of 20, maybe even 30 belts always there, and then you can just keep going. A good fresh belt on a task like this, that'll take a belt to do that, and it starts to get a bit blunt. It'll blitz through it if you've just got a nice belt going just on. If you notice that welds are taking a while with the belt sander, that's your belt worn out, so just go for fresh belts. They're only cheap. Screw fix for me, only about £5 for a pack of 30. It's not bad. Right, I'm going to carry on grinding. Then we'll prime that, get some red oxide in, I'll use the zinc paint in, then we'll seam seal it and we're done. Alright, a bit more grinding to go now. Okay guys, just put a few more plugs in now. I'm happy with the position. I'll just give it some further thought, and with this being over the tunnel walls, it is quite structural really, because it's stopping that part of the tunnel. Give it more strength around your gearbox mounts as well, so we're going to do some extra welds on it, make it really solid. So a few more, ground down most of them, a few more to go. Put another 5 plug welds, various positions around it, so that that tunnel's really nice and solid there. You just didn't want areas where it's flexing underneath, so I just crimped it, squashed it back down, tapped down with a hammer, make sure it's a snug fit, and finish off plugging these. So it's masked back on because again the fumes kick up. Here we go. How this camera keeps on going I don't know. The autofocus is now going on the camera. It's a Panasonic DX. And it's been really good over the last few years. It's took some stick, dust, dropping it, all sorts. It's time for a new camera soon. We'll drag the last out of it. So seam sealer on, welds ground down, a little bit of etch prime on. So we'll just run the brush around that seam seal, That'll finalise the tunnel area. I won't finish off those tunnel mounts because there's a couple of welds to go on the opposite side on the extremes of the brackets, but the tunnel mount itself's done, so I'll just drag the brush round that. Okay, just run the brush round, left it factory with all blobs and over blobs as they do at Ford, so just drag it around with a brush and that's the end of that. So that'll do for this evening. I'll get back on this on Monday. For you it'll only be a few minutes. As ever, keep on going. Let's go, see you Monday. A time warp for you guys, 48 hours for me. So that bit's done. Okay guys, I left you off with the about to demo the T-shifter. Before I fit the T-shifter, I mentioned cruise control, didn't I? Well, we are fitting the Granada cruise control to the setup. I'm happy about the gearbox and the way it selects the gears, and you just saw me painting the transmission tunnel. Let's go along with the stick and have a look at that transmission tunnel seam seal that we just did, and I'll show you what we're doing with the stick in a sec. So we'll walk you through. Hope you're enjoying the film on these closing in cold October nights now. So we'll pan across slowly for you, across to that, and that's that all set. So we're clean and good to go there. Before we start finally taking the box out, I want to make sure the box wiring loom does what I want and that the speed sensor on the gearbox and the speedo cable work. Well, we've run a speedo cable through just to Sierra 1 and that's all right. We've also got the choice of the Granada one. They're both similar, just one's a different length, so we'll pick the best length for us there. So cables go in, no problem with that drive cock. But taking you back to the T-shifter now and that torque of cruise control from the Granada, walking across to the cruise bench. Let's cruise across to the cruise bench. Cleared a little space on the bench over here, and we're starting to mock up the cruise control. We've got the notice board here where I'm starting to make notes of wiring connections. I've started decoding the wiring harness, downloaded a few diagrams handy off the internet with the schematic and the pinouts of the cruise control unit. I was going to use the ECU out of the Granada, but it needs more communication with the rest of the systems than what I've liked. But because I got the bug for cruise control, I decided I wanted cruise, so I went for the lower down model, which was fitted to the earlier units. Excuse me. And this one was actually on the Land Rover, but it's all the same type. This is an AMR 1173. They don't have the best write-ups in the world, but mainly due to bad soldering connections. Here's the circuit board, the cruise control board, and I can see why they've had these faults. It's just to do with some poor soldering joins. They seem to be 9 out of the 10 faults. This one's all right visually anyway. We've not powered it up yet. So an AMR 1173 standalone ECU for the cruise. The wiring harness for it's here. Back to the T-shifter. I don't want the cruise to work in any gear other than drive, so I've made a bracket here with a micro switch. We've slightly modified the stick. Say modified it, we've just added a plate on the side, and it's such that when I'll have to pull back because autofocus is now dead on the camera, so you're going to go out of focus if I get too close. So staying back for you, sorry about that. New camera on the way. That micro switch there only activates when it's in drive. As soon as I push forward or in any other gear, the micro switch lever is up. Now that required a modification to the T-shift. The little locating lug on the T-shifter, I'll turn it to the light for you, isn't long enough to hit a micro switch if you're fitting it on the side, so you have to weld a little extension piece on the end of that locating lug so that it can strike a micro switch bar, which is what that now does. Otherwise it's too short, the lug, and it doesn't touch the micro switch, so you can't actually get any control. But when you activate the button, let me push back, I'm going to push it against my body here, sorry about this, but I've no way of doing this otherwise. You have to just live with it. Watch this now, you can hear that as well, listen. So any position other than drive, the micro switch is not active, and that tucks away nicely in there. That's just a piece of 1mm plate, 2 studs welded to it, then a cherry micro switch, You can get them anywhere, electrical, microelectronics I should add. They're easy to get. I pinch one off an old motor off a vending machine. So that gives me a switch signal which I'm going to need to control the cruise. We only want it active when that's in drive. So that was the first place to start. Start at the beginning, power dead with that. Now the cover slides over and covers all that up neatly so you don't see it. So that part of it's done. I also fitted a new bush into the arm, into the pivot point of the T-shifter, because the plastic bushing had gone and it was rocking from left to right. So I had to use a bush out of a gear pedal housing, which is slightly bigger. So I just took out about 1 mil of metal out of the bush surround using a die grinder and carefully sanding it smooth. Then inserting the new bushing because I didn't want to try and get over plastic insert bush for a T-shifter. So if you're short and your T-shifter's wobbling, you can use bushings out of the brake pedal box assembly, the rod that supports the brake and clutch pedal. The plastic bushings in there are almost an exact fit, not quite, so you just file it, and there's 2 go in, 1 at either end, and that makes your gear shift really smooth and it doesn't rock from left to right. I put a little bit of copper slip on it as well, so that's a very smooth, solid feeling T-shifter there. So T-shifter done, put it to one side. We don't want to see that now for a while. Over to the cruise control system itself. I showed you that vac motor and the diaphragm. Well, we've now worked out a way of creating a pedal box with the cable. So up here now we've added a bracket to the accelerator box, checked that the size fits in the car. So there's plenty of room just above behind your dash here, so this fits in. What we get is, if I manually activate the diaphragm, I'm going to squeeze the bellows here now, and then you'll see the action that you get on the accelerator pedal. Let's just move the coffee cup. So squeezing the bellows gives us action, full range, and when you press your accelerator it doesn't push against the cable. So I've welded a bracket here to the accelerator rod. This will be ground down and cleaned up. It's all just mock-up at the moment, so forgive the rough welds and the sharp edges. These will be nicely curved. This will be powder coated so it looks the part. Cable screws in here on a little nut. That's the original cable off the Granada. Put some heat shrink over it because it was cracked. But you can put your foot down there and there's no resistance, and that's not going to wear out, that cable. It's very smooth through that active hole. Whilst I suppose you could have a plastic bushing in there as well. That's not going to wear out. That's never going to wear through that. It's hardly even, it's just glancing it. So that gives us concealed action, nothing in the engine bay, which is what I wanted. So Mk3 Granada cable, Mk3 Granada bellows, although they're probably standard issue on all cars. And then the vac pump's just here. When we power the vac pump up, it does indeed draw this in, and the vac dump valve also slowly releases it. So how this works, it generates a vacuum which draws that in, then if you turn the pump off, that'll just stay where it is. If you activate the dump valve, it slowly lets air out and slowly closes the throttle, and that's how the car would slowly control your acceleration. So there's only 3 wires on that, a ground or constant positive, and then each motor's grounded and the valve's grounded. So 3 wires controlling the pump. Then you've got this little baby here, which is the brake switch, goes in addition to your existing brake switch. These 2 wires will go to the ECU, and this, you see the vac pipe attached. It's a safety feature, so when I press this, not only does it make electrical contact, but it also creates an air brake. It's just a little valve, and that dumps any air in here very quickly. So you find it just jumps out like that and it's dead, and to reactivate the cruise you've got to switch it back on again. So this is your brake pedal kill switch, which kills all the vacuum and drops that pedal straight out. So that's how far we've got. What we've got to do now is get the vehicle speed sensor, which is connected to the gearbox on my car, and test the output of it and make sure it's compatible with this type of cruise as opposed to the one that I've used. Now I'm thinking that it's going to be, they're all similar sensors. So I'll take you across to another tech bench now. Over we go. Okay, so here I am in another workshop with some tech equipment lined up. Okay, now we're mixing tech with gearbox job, so still A4LD, but it's A4LD now with cruise added onto it. So sorry to overcomplicate things, but I'm sure that you'll like this feature. Right, in the end of the drill here is the speed sensor off the back of the Granada Scorpio gearbox. Now whilst I'm not using the Granada Scorpio gearbox, I'm going to take advantage of the fact that you can fit these on them as well as your speedo. There's twin outlets on the tail shaft output, and I can swap that tail shaft onto the earlier gearbox that doesn't have these. It just has a blanking plug. I might be able to either pull a blanking plug out and insert this, or if not, swap the tail housing. So I want dual speed outputs. The cable, they're just a mechanical cable straight to your Ford Speedo. It fits the Cortina Mk3 Speedo, the Granada or Sierra cable. And then on the other side of the tail output, there's the hole for you to fit this VSS, vehicle speed sender. Alright, so I'm testing it and I need to make sure that it's working first. So I've got a little LED light which just connects across the output of the unit, and when you turn it, each pulse is showing on the LED. 3 wires on the vehicle speed sensor. Yellow is the output, brown is the ground, and black is the 12 volts feed to the unit. So 12 volts, ground and output, quite simple. And then the LED will flicker on each turn. You'll notice, or you will now, as I turn that, we're getting a reading on the scope. This is a scope. This piece of kit does is it measures signals. It can be main signals, it can be voltage signals, it's anything that's given an output, and you can set this to the frequency that you want to record or monitor. So if this is in the drill, all I'm doing is just testing the speed sensor. So whilst it's working on the LED, I want to make sure that the waveform it generates, and this is the waveform coming up now, as I reduce the speed, you see that pattern changes. Right, so that's generating basically a lot of off-on pulses being displayed on that screen. Each time 12 volts comes out, the line will jump up. As it drops back off, it comes back down. At the same time, the scanner moves across, so it forms what you call a square wave. All right. Don't worry too much about that, but the computer on the cruise control needs a square wave input to read the speed. So we needed to know that this was producing an input, and it looks like it, an output, and it looks like it is. We can test that it's within the range by this little bad boy over here, and all this does is simulate the output of the sensor. It's just a waveform generator. I've switched it on to square. I've set the frequency on 100 Hertz, which is what the instruction manual of the Hella cruise control says the speed is. I think that corresponds to 60, but I might be wrong. I think it's cruising speed. So my frequency generator, all this does is mimic the effect of spinning that wheel. That's all it's doing, and it's giving a signal out on this black cable. Now why I've got this is for this reason. Rather than when I start testing the cruise unit, I don't want to be messing around with the drill because it's a bit messy, and it's hard to keep your trigger at a constant speed and such like. So we know that's working, we put it to one side, then we emulate that with the signal generator, and we just change the frequency, which is effectively fast or slow on the drill, and then I can set my miles per hour on this. So this will be the speed of the car. So all this is doing is simulating your gearbox speed sensor. By turning that, the car's driving faster, turning it clockwise, going anti-clockwise, it's going slower. That's all it does. In fact, actually no, it's clockwise for slower. Well, what I can do is, this is a fixed frequency here of 100, and then you can add to it up to 20 units. So I'm on 115. Frequency is 115 hertz. That's the frequency which the Hella speed control says that it'll come on at, or that range that it's operational, because you can't test your cruise control without the car being in motion. It's disabled below 26 mile an hour, so I wouldn't be able to test all the vacuum pump going off and on, and speed, and watch the accelerator move, because it's got no way of knowing how fast the car is going. And for safety, it doesn't come live till 26 miles an hour. So we've got to make this simulate the speed on its output. It means I can discard the drill, put the cruise control's speed sensor input onto the wire coming out of here, and just use that to control the speed. I know that the sensor's working within its range, because here's the output of the unit. I'm going to put it across the output of the oscilloscope, and you'll see, let me just touch it onto the output. There's that waveform coming up, and that was similar waveform to what the drill was generating, which means that this is generating the same signal as that. We know that's a good clean signal, therefore this must be a good clean signal, and I roughly know the speed of the drill. So around this speed is the 100 hertz area. Around that speed, so it's not going crazy fast, it's ticking along. So the next thing to do is to connect all the power up to this circuit board, and then put this signal onto it and leave it running. That'll simulate the car's travelling. Then we're going to try and get the system to come online. I won't connect the pump to it just yet. I'm going to listen for the system to come online. The computer's got a relay on board which clicks across when it's ready to be used. So we're going to be listening out for a relay clicking next. So we're going to connect the cruise control computer up to this power pack here, and then put the signal on it from there. Put the drill to one side, and then we're going to see if we can get it to boot up. We should hear the onboard relay click. If that does, then I'll carry it across to or bring the pump onto this bench, and we'll listen for the pump, and then we'll alter the speed on here and listen for the pump dropping in and out, and we'll watch the bellows open and close. Okay, we'll do that. Okay, with a bit of jiggery pokery, we've got it doing what we wanted. So the only thing I'd missed off is I hadn't fitted the brake light bulbs. It needs to have brake lights wired into its circuit. I think the idea is if the brake lights aren't detected, the cruise won't work. It's just extra safety. It wants to know that anything associated with braking is going to kill the system down if you put your foot on the brake, and it must use the bulb resistance to check that your bulbs are in and form part of the circuit. It took a bit of while to eventually work that out. None of the schematics or anything mentioned that you've got to have the brake lines, the brake bulbs fitted. It's only by chance I thought, well, hang on, some of the resistance values there aren't taken into account the brake bulbs, the resistance on the brake bulbs, a couple of ohms, but it must have a safety feature on it. So that's the brake light wire, and the brake lights are grounded off. So you can hear the pump running at the moment. It's pulsing. It's trying to keep the speed steady. So speed's controlled over here. If I turn this, you'll hear I've slowed down now, and it's trying to speed the car up. So I'll back off, and then it settles again. It's trying to get the right position it can for the speed. So it's aiming for a different speed now that I set. Now that's the dump valve you can hear dropping the speed because I've gone too high. Now go back and look, it settles, settling, adding a bit of throttle, and it's just trying to keep the road speed constant. Now the settings on the pulse generator are probably a bit harsh, which corresponds to the car suddenly accelerating really quick. But this is just an approximate. It's also working on the Ford Gearbox sender unit, so we know that works. I've had the drill running it as well, but it's just a bit harder for me to have this hand on the drill. It's easier to just set on here and do it. So done quite good there. You can hear that pulsing away as it tries to lock the speed. At the moment it's reducing the throttle, so I reduce the throttle here, it'll pump back. As it's just trying to, it's in a loop now, cutting in, cutting out. And it just can't settle itself simply because it's really exaggerated what I'm doing there. You'd never get that on a car. It'd be a slow move up and down, so it's a bit cruel on it because it can't cope with the inputs. But it proves that the system's working, it's reading the clock and everything. So there's not as many wires as you think. Let me just kill it now. I'm going to press the brake pedal, equivalent to pulling off this wire. Hang on, if I put this on to 12 volts, gone, because I've switched the brakes on. So that's the end of that. Now this just looks all a complete mess. You're sat at home, it's cold, you're indoors, all getting cozy watching YouTube. You're with me, your handyman, on YouTube. Hello, it's not all serious as well. We have light-hearted moments too. Okay, so that's where we're at. You're at home, you're all cozy. I'm in the workshop doing the graft. I've put a few hours into getting this system up and running, and it took a bit of working out. If I only had connected those brake bulbs earlier on, then I wouldn't have been struggling with schematics and stuff. It probably would have just plugged and played pretty much as I wanted it to, but it didn't straight away. So with the aid of the schematics there readily available on the internet, if you're doing this, then I'm using a Land Rover AMR1173, or if you look at that number there, 5GA 004 39712 unit, 15 quid eBay, no problem. You need the rest of the gubbins as well. I've got a cold, by the way, sorry about that. It's the usual cold for the year. So we do that. We know we've mocked it up, so we can now fit it onto the accelerator pedal that I showed you just before. Look at that. It's not nice to look at, is it? A big bunch of wires. I'll strip back a little bit and just neaten up. Now we know that it works. We don't have to do any more. I can put this back in its case. We're happy with the way that it goes and that the wiring was correct, because there are different connectors, different pinouts, but luckily I've downloaded the right one. No use using the Ford box, simply because it talks to other ECUs in the car to do with fuel economy and things, and it's overcomplicated. It's got another extra 4 or 5 connectors on the side, well, say five rows of 2, so another 10 pins on it or something like that. This is a very simple system. It's got bad write-ups, people saying they fail because of soldering joints, but this one's intact and obviously working. Let's dial the speed in again. What are we doing now on the scope? I think that's about 60 mile an hour. So 60 mile an hour, so we lock on to 60 mile an hour. This would be your stalk controller switch going on to 12 volts. Lock up, brings up to speed, locks on. Now because the speed input hasn't changed, the car thinks instantly that it's held at that speed, so it's moved the throttle into position and it just holds at that speed. It might give it the odd little blip in the software because that's quite extreme, that frequency generator. It's not the same as the car, but it gives us an idea, as I said. So occasionally it just gives it little blips. You can hear the dump valve go and the pump energizing now and again. It's happy that the speed's staying constant. So if I mess with the vehicle speed, you'll hear it trying to compensate again. Here we go. Off it goes. Slight help. We've gone up a hill. Going up a hill. More revs. Coming back down the hill. Stabilise. Over speed now. Hear the dump valve because we're going too fast for the set speed. Dump valve on. Dumping the air out the bellows. Increase speed. Stop the dump valve. Increase with more air pressure. It's found the speed now. It's happy, it's stable. under speed, increase throttle, mega under speed, come back down, dump, and that's the loop. That is the feedback loop going. It's working fine. So I'm going to tidy the wiring up. We'll pull some of this unnecessary equipment out of the way, and we'll get this. I'll show you moving the accelerator cable up and down next. Here we go. Right, here's a simplified layout now. There's your pump, there's your ECU for your cruise, multi-plug going in there. So we've got 3 wires going to the pump, solenoid, 12 volt feed to share both items and the pump itself. And then we've got your accelerate and decelerate wires. They'll just be going onto your stalk, dead easy, 12 volts in, increase and decrease speed, switch it off. Your off on switch is that blue one, I've got it permanently on, that turns it cruise off. Main feed to the ECU there, so that's all you've got on positive. 1 ground wire, that's easy. And then the bulbs, brake light bulbs, have to be fitted, so they're grounded as well. And then the final one's the speed input signal. That can go off your speedo drive, the electronic speedo drive sender, your VSS. In my case, I've got it going off as I said, the signal generator, which just copies what a vehicle speed sensor would do. So my speed control's on here. That item there, as I said before, that's just the scope, showing me that I've got a square wave coming out. And the pulses, each revolution or each movement of the wheel pulse, each one of them's a 12 volt pulse going up. That's all that is. It's nothing complicated, you don't have to worry about it. I can set the range that I want depending on how fast the signal's coming in. That's all that's for. We needed that to diagnose things. That's called an oscilloscope, by the way. So, and then 12 volt power pack there, little bench operated one from Maplin, only a few quid. It's only a 2 amp power supply. And that got me running. That kit there enabled me to set up the cruise control on the bench. I can now take it across to the pump. If only someone would have told me that by pulling out the bulbs, at least both bulbs, listen to it click off. Ding, dead. No bulb in, unit won't work. So your brake light wire has to be hooked up for testing purposes. If I'd have read that on the internet, I would have saved about 4 hours diagnostics. Wasted 4 hours. Well, not wasted, an interesting journey anyway. But I would never have thought you'd needed brake bulbs in. But luckily, when you're going down all the avenues of fault finding, eventually you get to where you've got to be. Determination is the key, and patience. You need a lot of patience. If you haven't got patience, stuff gets chucked out. I stuck with it. I'm glad about that. I'm going to take you across and show you this running the accelerator pedal. Hold up. Right, we're on. Let me just turn the adverts off. Set up on the bench. Here's the accelerator. Bellows fitted there. All the systems are on. We've got a speed dialed in there now. 60 mile an hour approximately. The only thing is I've got to hold down the vacuum release and switch. So I'm going to have to try and hit that while I activate the system. Ain't going to be easy. One hand with the camcorder, the other hand on this. Now what's that wire touches on there, if we can do it. There we go. Drawing in the accelerator, you missed that. It's locked onto the speed now. Accelerator's in there. You'll see that pedal move as it tries to adjust speed. If I can get down to this control and keep you on the pedal, we should see the action. There's the pedal. Can you see that? There you go, as it's trying to dial the speed in to the car. I'm just being really rough because the calibration on it is all over the place because the signal generator is very harsh in terms of its frequency. There, I'm on 100. It's trying to match in the speed now. See the pedal move. It's all part of the loop. So it tries to match that speed up. I can help it by turning this into where we want to go. goes out to the max. So it's difficult with one hand, but you get the idea. Because I'm not adjusting the speed as that's coming out, it's carrying on going. Normally, as that would be pulsing, I'd be dropping the revs down. Put my other hands on this, and this will kill it. Gone. And that kills the vacuum as well. So that's stage one. We're just doing the schematics now, how we're going to run all this in. We've got a surprise for the gear lever as well for you. A little indicator lamp that's going to indicate that cruise is cruising. And that's going to be fitted in the T-shifter indicator where the general illumination bulb would go. It goes alongside that, and we get two types of illumination. One that tells us cruise is active, the other to give us the illumination for the actual numerals on the dial, the nighttime illumination. So we've done a great move there. The patience has paid off. I must admit, you know, it does take, I said that just a few minutes ago about the patience, it does takes it. It can try you. You wouldn't have thought, as I say, you know, them bulbs, but that's what it was. Right, well, it's got late and I've been on this a good few hours, 2 nights actually, and I've decided tonight's going to be an early night. We'll have a little drink to celebrate that this part of the journey's over. We can now start to plan the wiring harnesses out and which route to bring the cables from the gearbox. There's going to be some additional holes. I've made a note up here for what additional drill holes have got to go into the shell for these new looms. Okay, new looms. So I will wait for the body shop, which I now lost my booking slot, so I have to wait for the next booking slot. As you know, the automatic gearbox trashed our spray shop booking space, but we'll get it back. A few more holes to drill in the shell anyway. As soon as that booking slot comes up, shell's out, and I'll start carrying on the rest of the rebuild. That's it for tonight. For you, it's only going to be a few minutes. No, seconds. For me, it's 24 hours. Catch you in a bit. Okay, so we go back under the car to connect the linkage rod. We've got Rick inside the car going to operate the lever, so I'll show you how it all works. Hold on, here we go. Here, Rick climbing in there now. No, I've got to connect the rod up, yeah. Right, just got to keep your distance back from the box because the autofocus on the camera's now trashed. The new camera's on the way, so here's the clip. The rod's just gone in, so here's our rod I was telling you about. Look how nice and easy this is to fit. So there's a bracket on the end, like a banjo type thing with a lock nut. And that stud you see here is off the Granada. I've just adjusted it. There's 2 in 1 there. I think that's a Sierra stud fixing on the Granada, but it basically, if I can get you in, clip into there. Then we've got our clip. It's a bit awkward. We're gonna do it. Clip. I'll probably do it without the clip being on, but just showing you how easy it is to assemble. Alright, Rick, you squeeze that trigger and go through your gears. I'm going to take you in. I might have to just keep the bolts pushed down. Going all the way through. That's the full range, and there it is, operating up this end. Right, go through them quite quickly now, please. I can hear it's clicking here. I'm clicking on the selector. And yeah, one more time through the sequence. So we've got no clearance problems. That's the rod done. That's pretty much a straight rod with a bend in the end here, look. Off a Granada, it was off a Granada Not the one outside, it was off a, oh, what the hell are they called? Funeral car, forget the name. It's 2.9 anyway. Okay, thought I'd show you that, all done, finished down here now. Before we close this section, this video today, we shall just show you the last mod we're doing on the electronics. Now that we're happy with the gear shift and you've seen them gears selected and we're nice and smooth on the gear operating, we're going to do the illumination for the control indicator there. What we're going to do, it's going to be normal colour, so you see that dial, that lights up with this lovely little bulb holder here. That clips in, and that's your general illumination bulb. When you switch your side lights on your Cortina, that lights up this display panel here and shows you what gear you're in. We're going to have it running all the time because they're LEDs, so they don't get hot and there's no using any power. I think it'd be better in the daytime, you can see your gear select. So we're going to use two colours, hyper bright white and hyper bright red. And what's going to happen is, as long as I'm in drive and I activate the cruise control, you saw that running, the cruise will fire a relay up on one of the boards here. Now we've got the T-shifter diagram. It's going to give an output, I've not put it on the board yet, and it's going to fire the LED into red. So when the cruise activates, it gives an output here. A 12 volt output comes on, that's to the pump itself. We're going to tap into the pump output, and that's going to light up one of these super duper LEDs. And this indicator will then toggle from white to red. It won't stay on white, so it'll be a changeover contact on a relay which will flip that, and this then becomes red. So red shows us on the indicator that it's cruise. All the gear selections won't be used because it's only going to light up drive in red, because as soon as I go out of drive, that micro switch that I fitted will disconnect the cruise, and the relay will toggle back and it'll go back to white. So that's a nice little feature, and we're going to mock that up now to end the video. So let's go upstairs to the other workshop and we'll build the LEDs and make a little wiring loom, and that'll go inside here, and I'll dim the lights down and we'll see what red and white look like on this display and see how good it looks. I'll operate the gear stick and we'll toggle through it. Alright, so let's go and build the LEDs up. Easily done. Grab that little fella and we'll grab these. Let's go up and build that light now. Just on the bench now and just soldered up the LEDs. We get a resistor on there now, ready for connecting them to the 12 volts. They'll fit just inside our indicator for the selector shift. Hope you've been enjoying these tech videos, and we hope we'll get on the bodywork soon. I've missed the slot for the paint, as I explained, but we'll get that paint slot back. In the meantime, I do as much as I can whilst waiting to take the car away. There's nothing to do on it, just to ship it out into the paint, so that'll be on the next film. So let's just do this and see how it looks, and we'll wrap that for this episode, and we'll be on more bodywork stuff on the next episode. So a nice little tech diversion again. I'm sure you all can see that it's in aid of the cruise. You can just imagine long motorways, continental, on the autobahn, with all these little features going, the overdrive, the torque lockup, the cruise control, the nice lighting on it. It's going to look nice, it's going to be worth it. So thanks for bearing with us, the YouTubers, while we've done a little diversion. Hope you didn't mind that diversion I've done, and we'll catch you soon. Before I go though, I will show you this light up. So let me solder the rest of the cables. Okay, soldered those wires up to the LEDs, resistor in the middle there, just sliding up the last piece of heat shrink to cover the whole lot, and then we'll heat shrink that down for a nice neat LED pack. Let's go and see what it looks like. Exciting! Will it be a flop? Will it be a fail? Or will it be really nice? Who knows what it's going to look like? Jimbo! Is it going to look nice in the gear stick? Red and green, innit? Red and green, innit? Yeehaw! Guys, it's dark. I've put the lights off just to show you the green. The green's looking good. On camera it's going to look a bit overexposed to you. For me it's looking good. The green scatters the light and lights the dial uniform, showing that all those gears are available in that selection mode. So we go through, it's on the green LED, you can see that light source there on your screen altering. Look how nice that is. Ooh, yeah, nice. Gary, Jim, what do you reckon? Ooh. Right, so lovely for that. We'll switch across to red. And let me just put on the main light so I can see it probably better like that. So just taking the green off and finding the red wire. Do bear with my horrid cold. I always get one this time of year. And look at the red, looking nice too. Oh, there we are. So we're in drive, we're in cruise control there, in the dark. And look at that beauty. Just what you want. Lights the D up nice in drive. Doesn't really like the rest of the faceplate, implying that that mode's in that switch position only. So it's just focuses at the dials in drive mode, which is good. I do like that. You can hear the micro switch as I rock it just into neutral. Now that would now go to green as soon as I hit the switch T shift forward. Because of that micro switch, it'll kill the cruise, and this red LED is only connected to the cruise, it's not connected to any other lighting feature, so that would then toggle the relay back to green. So you're only ever going to see it in D. So position D is the only time you'll see it in red, but that's great, that's what we want. So drive, and it works in daylight as well. If we switch on the daylight fluorescent, look, there's plenty of indication there for us. So our cruise light comes on and we're cruising. We then shift forward. Let's simulate that now. Green wire going on. Green's a bit brighter. It's just probably wavelength as well. I think the green LED is actually brighter. I might get a slightly brighter red, but this is just proving the principle. So away we go through the gears there. And for night time, nice dial. It's going to look nice, guys. You know it's all been worth it, this video. You know it's all been worth the research and development. We have put a lot of brain power in recently. Switch on, let's get you back to light. We put a lot of brain power in. You can see where we are. We're up here, that dashboard area of the workshop. It's worth doing it. Once all these foundations are laid, then you're building up on your knowledge, you're building up on your stock of parts, and you're where you want to be. You've tested everything, you've bench tested all your kit, we've gone under, we've done the gearbox mounts, we've gone under, we know where the speedo cable's going, we know about our clearances, we know what electric cables I've got to route through, stuff like this to pick up, and gearbox selector switches. We've done the neutral switch inside here, there it is at the side. So all the groundworks are laid for a great system. It's going to be nice. Just imagine that now in green, and then I hit the cruise switch on the stalk, which is going to be on the indicator stalk, by the way, twin indicator stalks. So what you can do on the Cortina is you can put another indicator stalk on the other side using a facelift mount bracket. It'll still look pre-facelift, but inside the cowling is a double bracket, which on facelift cars, as you know, I've got indicators on both sides, so you use that mounting stalk, but the original pre-facelift stalk, pulling up for speed increase, pressing the horn for speed decrease, flipping down to turn cruise completely off, flipping up to turn it on into standby mode, flash once to load it. That'll switch into red as long as I'm in drive. As soon as I drop out of drive, the cruise relay will drop out, or as soon as I hit my brake pedal, that'll toggle back to green. Let's flip back to red. Let's pretend we're in Italy cruising. We've built the car. All the videos have come to an end. What are you guys going to do out in YouTube land? Send us some comments. Tell us what you want us to do next. You're going to tell me it's Bramble. we're only halfway through the video series. You know, there's a lot to do, especially, well, it's all going to be reassembly work. There we are, we're on cruise again. So let's wrap up then. Let's call it a day. Wind yourselves down. Hopefully you've enjoyed this upload. I'm guessing this is about a 40-50 minute upload, not as long as the other ones. I'm trying to keep them under an hour, just to give you more content and variation. So we've done that. We've laid some foundations, and there's been a lot of footage, so I've got to upload this episode. I'm hoping it's 23. I'm sure I'm up to 23. The intro's showing us 23. If someone says, hey, hang on a minute, it's part 22. I think I've done part 22, haven't I? Please tell me I have. I have to go back to the office and check on YouTube. Part 23, I hope you enjoyed. It was all about some background stuff, about cruise control, about fitting the gear selector linkage, about making sure those speedo cables fit through. Obviously, the previous video showed us mounting the gearbox, and we were happy that fitted. This part was predominantly cruise control and getting the gear selector T-shift on the Mk3 Cortina to do what we wanted it to do. So dual illumination there, drive position switch for the cruise. There'll also be a kick down accelerator switch. We've got to fit that next. We'll do that in the next part. I want to get this wrapped before the weekend so you've got something to watch. So it's going to be over and out from Cortina City again. I apologise, I've got a touch of cold, but it'll go, it's not that bad. So we'll catch you in November for part 20. Oh my god, I hope it's 24. I hope this is part 23. For part 24, we want to see your comments. It's really interesting to see who's watching the films. We've got a lot of viewers and we're approaching 820,000 views. Shall we see 1 million before Project Ruby's out? How about 1 million views? If you can help me with that, then just share the links to Classic Car Mags or Classic Car Weekly, whatever you can, because a lot of people don't know. I speak to them at classic car shows and, oh, I didn't know about your channel, that'd be handy to have. So I'm trying to get the word out there as well, and just let more people know about what we're up to. I know it's quite Cortina specific, but this kind of mod would work on an early Granada, it'd work on Capris. It's going to be the same idea for your Capri cruise control, if that's what you want to be doing. Maybe I'll tag it as Capri as well in the description, and then we welcome anyone with Capris to come on board and join us on this, because we're all Ford fans after all. So I'll leave you with those thoughts. Thanks for the subscriptions and the comments. Keep them coming. Let's hear your views and what you thought about this section, this tech section. We'll try and up the octane a bit for you. I'll be backing some air guitar on the back of the truck when Dave picks the car up. We'll blast down the road and give you a little bit of that, bit of entertainment. So over and out. Thanks for watching again. Hope you enjoyed our cruise control. It's all looking nice. Just look at that lovely. Let's get you in the dark again. Come on. Those dark winter nights. Your T-shift. You're on the Autobahn. You're heading for the Italian Lake Garda. You're cruising. Everything's running mint. The car's all nice and factory. Or factory-ish. You've got the red LED reflecting off your chrome. It switches to green as you cog it down into second to get up those hills. Ooh, wow, 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 wow. It'll actually be third, don't tell anybody. It's an A4 box, but nice. Yes. Look at that. You like all these toys? Yes. So we thank you and we say good night. Look out for the next part. It's been a pleasure as always. I enjoy it too. Good night from me, Cortina City. Cut this in wherever we want. This bit you don't put on YouTube. You put it at the end or something like that. Okay, that's overkill.